keeping on MCU.
There have been so many discussions recently that the MCU should have died and ended with Endgame, yada yada yada. There has been nothing good since the end of Endgame, yada yada yada. I was like, is it really as bad as people make it out? So I decided we would rank just the films from Stage 4 and talk about them a little bit and see if we think there are some genuinely valid criticisms or if it is just people who have literally watched their childhood disappear and now they can't emotionally cope without it.
Understandable.
So let's get into this. So, just so everyone knows what we're talking about here, I don't believe these are in correct order, but they might be. The MCU Stage 4 films are Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals, Spider-Man No Way Home, Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, Thor Love and Thunder, and Black Panther Wakanda Forever.
Yes.
And I'll be honest, when I wrote that list down and I thought about my individual feelings towards each of them films, I did kind of sit there and go, maybe they've got a fucking point. Because a lot of these films I have some serious criticisms towards. But at the same time, I can't say I walked out of the cinema for most of them angry or upset or that wasn't good enough.
No, I think so when I read through this list that you sent me, I kind of hit there's some clear, those were great films, love them. That was a bad one, and then there's kind of these are kind of mid, which in the moment don't come out hating it, and you're like, okay, that wasn't that bad of a film, I enjoyed it. But I guess looking now, you do realize that there was quite a few kind of mid films in Phase 4.
Yeah. So I think the best way to put it across is, I've said, I'm not a big rewatcher of films. But if there is a film that's I really like, I know 6 to 8 months later if I really like it, if someone goes, do you fancy putting that on? And I'm like, yeah, fuck it, let's watch that. If it's a mid film, I'm gonna go do something else. I'm not gonna spend 2 hours watching a film that's mid. Even if I don't consciously realise I think it's mid. So Winter Soldier, you can basically say to me anytime, do you want to watch Winter Soldier? I'll be like, fuck yes, throw that on.
Let's get it on then.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas Black Widow, I really can't be asked. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I think that's a good segue into why I was going to start with this list, which is I'm pretty sure we both have a very solid last place.
Yes.
And I think most MCU fans do, in the sense of Black Widow.
Well, here's the thing with Black Widow. It
came out the wrong
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. If that would have come out in the right place in the timeline, and if they'd have done Taskmaster properly, and I do not mean making Taskmaster a man, I mean simply making Taskmaster done well.
Yep.
I think this film could have been very, very good.
Yeah, I agree.
But the waiting for it to be quite an average plot made the plot seem worse by comparison, as well as the wastefulness of Taskmaster. I mean, it puts it at the bottom. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit here and absolutely trash it. I went to see it. I enjoyed it enough while I was there. I like I said, I wasn't like, well, that was a waste of 2 hours. But if someone goes, oh, I was just about to watch Black Widow, do you want to watch it with me? I'm probably not going to say yes.
Yeah, agreed. I think you nailed it there with it came out, primarily it came out at the wrong time. It felt late. It's why did we not, there was no solid reason for why we would get this now and not just have it earlier. With Miss Marvel, it made sense that we would time hop way back and or Captain Marvel, sorry. And that made sense, why we hadn't had that film earlier.
Yeah.
But this just felt late, and then like you say, Taskmaster was just kind of very poorly done and used, and I think had they fixed those two things, like it would have been a much better film. But for Phase 4, it's slap bang at the bottom. It's just it's just not good.
Now, I think we're going to disagree on what we have next.
So here's the thing, right? Are we going down the list, or do we want to do this in number
I was
order?
going to go through our rankings, bottom to top.
Okay, so what you have
Yeah.
for number 6?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Let's
So
see.
I think you're going to say Eternals, but I have Thor.
In a shocking turn of events, I also have 4.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
There we go. It's almost like we talk and like share our thoughts and become one hive mind every week for over a year now.
These are the views of Cussing Cover.
we did sit here and when we both said we enjoyed Thor. And I did enjoy Thor. But I would be lying if I said I don't see some validity in people's complaints of it.
Yeah. And I will say, from my like 6 up to 3, it's very close. It was very difficult for me to put them in full or like really pick. But the way I did it is like, yes, I enjoyed 4. We both said we really enjoyed the humor and this, like we loved that part of it. But when I was thinking back, I was like, other than the humor, what actually happened in 4? And I was like, I don't really remember what the main beat of it was, other than humor and 4 doing a workout.
Yeah, I get that.
So I was like,
what I will say is, as much as we can and fairly say that that wasn't good enough, etc., I'd still say it's the second best Thor film.
yeah.
I think Ragnarok is like a top MCU film. I think the first Thor and Thor Dark World are both pretty bad.
Yeah, the first 4 was slightly
I'd
better,
say I think we can all agree Dark World is terrible.
Yeah.
To the point where me, as someone who literally has spent hours watching and reading about this, when it came time for Infinity War and Endgame, forgot that the Reality Stone was in Dark World, and I was like, "Wait, we haven't seen the Reality Stone yet," because it's that forgettable of a film. Then you've got Thor and Love and Thunder, which, based on taste, you can put either way around, I think.
Yeah.
And then you've got Ragnarok, which is streaks ahead of all of them.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, so I don't think I don't think that's a particularly controversial pick to have Thor in 6th out of these 7.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so I think this potentially gives us a better chance of matching on number 5 as well. I have Eternals.
Now, this is where we are different.
Okay, what have you gone for?
So I've got Doctor Strange.
Okay.
But I was like I said, these were very difficult. I kept switching them around and I couldn't decide. But then I came to the conclusion that I personally enjoyed the introduction to Eternals and this kind of bigger thing it opened up that was going on. Doctor Strange was great. It just, I don't know, it felt like it was lacking a bit of, there was a bit too many different story beats going on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I can get that. So the reason I had Eternals in 5th was, while I did enjoy the characters, which is why I had it above Thor, and I thought it was a very nice introduction to a new set of characters, it felt like, upon retrospect, that the fall of Icarus and the pacing sped up with not a lot of explanation. It went from quite a slow, like, oh, what's happening here, trying to work out what's going on, to, oh, we all hate each other, we're divided down the middle, we must now decide who's doing what. And you had like your characters fighting to save Earth, your characters fighting to do what they're supposed to do, and you had like people like Kingo, who were like, "I'm not doing anything. I'm not getting involved. Whatever you guys decide on between yourselves, I will honor."
Yeah, I can understand that.
So I just felt, upon reflection, that it missed out slightly. But it's also one of the ones out of here that I'd be very happy to see a sequel for announced soon,
Yeah.
because I think there's definitely something there. And I think for a first film where you're having to introduce that many characters, it did do a very good job. I just think we've got 3 genuinely very good films still on this list. And again, this
Hmm.
part comes down to taste.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, for me, Doctor Strange was slightly lower just because I felt like it was you had Wanda's storyline kind of competing with what Doctor Strange was trying to learn, and then that introduction. I get it was more. It felt like a film just to kind of help the viewers learn the multiverse, but it
Yeah,
kind of felt a little bit all over the place. Um,
okay, that's fair. So
but
is it safe to assume in fourth place we are the inverse of each other?
yeah, so if you
And
got
I have Doctor Strange and you have
yeah,
Eternals?
correct.
Okay, cool. This
So we're
this does
essentially
show
the
that.
same.
Yeah. So the reason I went for Doctor Strange above Eternals
Okay.
is I liked that they tried something new in the sense of it being a bit more creepy and
Mm, mm-hmm.
hitting more of them horror elements. I wouldn't say it was an out and out horror film like people were initially trying to sell it as, but it definitely had their moments where you're like, fuck me, that is genuinely a bit scary.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Um, I always enjoy some fuckery and the visuals that you can do with Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Um, and seeing the power of what the multiverse can do for us as fans with cameos from Patrick Stewart as
Yeah.
Professor X and Jim Krasinski as Reed and stuff like that
Mm-hmm.
was kind of like a, yeah, I get it's fan service, but at the same time, I'm a fan. I'm
Yeah.
who got serviced. Like, if it was bad fan service, then you can't really call it fan service if the fans don't like it. But I enjoyed it. It was nice. I do agree there are some issues with it. I do think that your criticism of it was a Doctor Strange film, but it felt more like a Wonder film in places is valid.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think overall, while I came out of that less impressed than I came out of Eternals, I think upon reflection, Doctor Strange has aged better in my mind than Eternals has.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I can
But
definitely
again,
understand that.
with them two being so close, that is purely
Yeah.
just a preference of what you want to see when you go to the cinema.
Yeah.
Um, and I think the reason Doctor Strange takes shares for me is just it did try something a bit new.
Now, I'll be
Now,
interested.
this is, yeah, these are all very much going to be a taste thing. I think we will have first the same,
Oh,
but okay, maybe not then.
I think we might
Um,
have third the same.
you think we might have third the same? Okay, what have you got in third?
I have Black Panther in third.
Oh, ding, 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 ding. Um,
While I love the film, I love the visuals of the film. The score was incredible. The design and all, like the emotion that we got to feel through that film. It felt compared to the remaining two of Shang-Chi and Spider-Man, it just felt a little lacking with Namor in how they used him at times, which is why I've put it in
okay.
third.
I mean, I think that's fair. I mean, first and foremost, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever is a phenomenal film.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't think that's up for debate here before people come in and like, wow, you're putting that third. That's easily a really good film. We're not saying it's not a great film. It's a fucking brilliant film.
Yeah,
Um, and it is definitely out of the ones on this list, the first film we've got to so far that I would rewatch pretty happily.
yeah,
Um, I think it is hampered slightly with I don't love it as much as the first Black Panther film.
yeah,
Um, and I kind of wish we got more out of that Shuri and Killmonger
yeah. It's just
exchange, because Shuri comes out of that ready to kill Namor, and that's her plan. And we don't actually see that plan change as much as on a dime she just goes, no, I can't do this. And I'm not a fan of them on the dime changes where she goes from literally 30 seconds before actively killing him by dehydrating him to then changing her mind at the last second.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. There was just the way they did the conflict with Namor kind of just felt a bit lacking in places. And that
Um,
can be part and parcel to a lot of different things that film went through during production and having to be rewritten and all sorts. But yeah,
what I will say is I think that film is going to end up being higher on our list in a couple of years once we've had more out of
potentially.
Riri. And once Riri nostalgia can set in and we're like, that was when we first got Riri, that film's
Yeah,
excellent.
yeah,
Um,
that could be true.
yeah, I think it has, out of all these films, the best potential to age well.
I can agree on that.
So, do I take it from your umming and ahhing about me thinking we're going to agree on number one that you have Spider Man at number two?
I do have Spider Man at number two.
Okay. Um,
Now,
so I've got Shang-Chi at two.
okay, that doesn't
Um,
surprise me.
and I think it is fair to say that it is because I'm a complete sucker for
Spider Man.
everything No Way Home were trying to do.
Oh, I
And I
mean,
think it executed its plans basically perfectly.
I think, don't get me wrong, Spider Man was an incredible film. And like you say, it nailed everything it wanted to do. We got the fan service that we all wanted. And it opened the world to this whole like multiverse thing. It was an amazing Spider-Man film through and through. The only reason I put, well, not the, well, more so the reason I put Shang-Chi above it for me is the martial arts in Shang-Chi are fucking incredible. The visuals in Shang-Chi, I think, are more amazing. And that comes from just what Shang-Chi has to play with, if that makes sense. Like, at the end of the day, Spider-Man is it like he doesn't have mystical beings to be fighting in that film. So there's just certain things in Shang-Chi that appeal to my like the creative side of me and stuff that I kind of put that above
Yeah.
Spider-Man purely for those things. And I'm
Um,
very much more like Shang-Chi 2 is probably the film that I'm most excited for when we get it.
I think Shang-Chi is a genuine masterpiece. I think it is another situation with the Black Panther films where when you're letting culture do culture,
Mm,
it feels authentic and real, which is why it's so good. I completely agree that it visually was stunning. The story was well put together for a origin story, which is difficult to do.
mm,
It is so insanely rewatchable, and I do love that film. Um, and probably by rights, it should be higher than Spider-Man: No Way Home. And I completely get why you would put it above that. But when it comes down to a preference, which is all this list is,
yeah.
I don't think me, who as someone who grew up watching the animated Spider-Man cartoon at 6 a.m. on a Saturday with the Spider-Man candy sticks, having watched the Tobey Maguire films, the Andrew Garfield films, the Tom Holland films, and buying Spider-Man comics regularly, can sit here and say that I didn't squeal and clap and just lose my ever loving shit during No Way Home. Um, and for No Way Home, I was really anxious going into it because of all the leaks about it. I was like, there
Mm,
was no way this film is going to live up to what I've built it up to be in my mind, and it did.
yeah. No, I mean, all
I will
those
also say
things are valid.
it has been the only film since Endgame that's had the balls to actually kill off someone important.
This is, yeah, that's that's valid. Yeah. Because there's definitely been some films where there should have been, and
I mean,
they
I think everyone with a brain cell left Ant-Man and the Wasp was like, wait, so no one died?
no one
Really?
died or got stuck. Like, yeah.
Um,
I I
so
do
yeah,
think Shang-Chi and Spider-Man are very close, and it all comes down
100%.
to preference on if you're a massive Spider-Man fan or just like what your preference in kind of action and style goes to.
But I think it's very easy if you look at this to see is we had three genuinely top MCU films
Yep.
in Black Panther, Shang-Chi, and Spider-Man. We then had three middle of the road films, and
Yeah.
depending on your personal taste, some of them might be close to that top third.
Yeah.
And then we had one absolute stinker.
I can agree on that.
But I don't know how
Mm.
many phase 1 and 2 films I can confidently say are going above like Doctor Strange, which I had at 4. I think Doctor Strange is probably, if I was to rank all of the MCU films, which maybe we'll
Oof.
do some point soon, I feel like that's probably right around the middle area.
Mm.
So, and that's also in the middle of this list. Does that mean we're moving in the right direction? Or not necessarily the right direction. Does it mean we're not moving in the wrong direction?
I don't think we're moving in the wrong direction. I just think the issue that the fandom has is we reached such a high bar with Infinity War and Endgame that what was once like a mediocre good film now feels mediocre lower because we've experienced such a high bar with the kind of finale of phase 3, that it was always going to be the case going into phase 4 that nothing was going to be able to live up to that because you don't have that build up. And I think we're kind of all looking for, like, got that our like opinions are skewed because of that.
You know what I think the best way I can describe Endgame as?
Go on.
As like, do you remember, this guy sounds so fucking cringe, but it's the only way I can possibly think to explain it.
Okay.
Do you remember when Fortnite did the Black Hole event and then the
Yes.
game wasn't playable for like 2 or 3 days or whatever it
Yes.
was? And the game had started to decline slightly, but this moment happened and instantly everyone's eyes were glued to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like Cypher PK had over like 200,000 viewers for like 4 days straight, just staring at a black screen, trying to work out what was going on.
Yeah. That.
Endgame felt like that. It felt like a lot of people had already invested so much time that they were like, I'm seeing this through. And
Mm-hmm.
they went, okay, I've seen this story. I'm okay to leave it now.
Mm-hmm.
But because then people just went, okay, this isn't for me anymore. Like a lot of us have done with Fortnite now. We've gone, okay, I'm over this now. And we've moved on from it. That now means the people who just do enjoy it but want to blame something are now blaming everything new, saying that it's caused the downfall. Whereas I think they could have released their best ever films after Endgame and they still wouldn't have done as well because a number of people just went, I'm getting off the ride now.
Yeah. No, that's actually quite a good comparison because you have to look like same with Endgame. What happened with that at the end of Fortnite? There was so much build up that like though some people towards the end maybe didn't rush to see the films, they still were like, oh, I'll keep up. And then as it was getting closer to Endgame, and there was more talk of it and more hype, everyone like caught up on things. People came back, people reinvested into it, and the payoff was there. We got the payoff. What happened with Fortnite? And then after that, a lot of people were like, oh, I got my payoff. Cool. See you later. Or like they watched the first thing after that and were like, meh, it just feels like the same old again now. I'm done. Happened in Fortnite. You could even say in Fortnite, there's been some of the best partnerships that game's done since then, but
Yes.
less people, it's not a cultural phenomenon anymore.
And here's
Like,
the thing, people will say Fortnite fell off. It's still raking in millions every year, and it is still widely a successful game, but everyone is comparing it to its height. And I
yep,
think that is what is happening to the MCU right now. Everyone's
exactly.
going, these films aren't as hype as Endgame was. And it's like, okay, but you've got to put You know, when you look back at old media and they always say, like, in school reading old book, you've got to look at the context of the world to fully
Mm-hmm.
understand it. You've got to look at the context of the world since Endgame. We've gone through a global pandemic and we are heading on a fast track to a global recession.
Yep.
A lot of people are still a bit weird about being in public places for too long.
Mm.
And a lot of people are also being very careful about their money.
Yeah.
Going to the cinema to see a film that's going to be on Disney Plus in 3 months' time might not be on everyone's top priority list anymore.
No, I would agree. And we said it way back in the midst of phase four that phase four was like going back to phase one. It was a like a fresh build up. And if you looked back to phase one was kind of slow.
Yeah.
Um,
It was a bunch of individual films, and then everyone was like losing their mind when they said Avengers is going to have all these characters together, and they're like, "What? None of them have interacted before, other than Black Widow."
exactly. Like, all we got was a post-credit scene on some of them that like
Yeah,
linked it
exactly.
into the same thing, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, they're starting to link them." It's the same thing again, and I think you never know. Maybe by phase six, we will get a build up again, and people will return because they'll be like, "Oh shit, everyone's talking about like this huge build up again." And it'll probably pull a bunch of people back in, but it's gonna be hard to hit that same feeling as it did the first time round. It's
Uh huh.
nothing ever hits the same a second time. And it's always hard to like hit that peak and to stay on that peak and climb again. Like it's gonna drop. So I think overall phase four was good. I don't think it was going in the wrong direction. I think it's just people kind of have this clouded judgment of it.
Yeah, I completely agree.